You really wanted to know more. Grazing cow-calf pairs on hot wire. You asked the questions. Let's get into it. Crew, let's ranch it up. Good day, everyone, and thanks for riding with us on this all-new episode of the Ranch It Up Radio Show. I'm Jeff Tigger Earhart. A big thank you goes out to our partners, ranchchannel.com, Transova Genetics, Axiota Multimin and Lactapro, Stockman's Livestock Exchange, the American Gelbvieh Association, Imogene Ingredients and Pharmaten, Westway Feed Products, Medora Boot and Western Wear, Allied Genetic Resources and Allied Feeding Partners, LivestockMarket.com, EquineMarket.com, AuctionTime.com, RFD TV, Wrangler, and this fine radio station.
Cattle Battle.
In case you missed last week's program, y'all need to go to ranchitupshow.com, check out the show notes, and take a listen. We talked with Trevor Burian from western North Dakota about grazing cattle on hot wire, breaking cattle to hot wire, how he does it. And we really talked a lot about grazing those grass calves, those yearlings. And the phone lines lit up, and people sent me emails and wanted more information about it and really wanted to pick Trevor's brain and have him back on the program. So I am more than happy to oblige, and we're diving right into this. So we've got Trevor Burian back with the Hungry Man Butte Ranch, and we're talking about hot wire versus barbed wire, or I should say more specifically hot wire. But Trevor, thanks for coming back on the program anyhow, and let's talk about cow-calf pairs. You've had experience grazing cow-calf pairs on a hot wire, correct? And how did it go? How did it work out for you? Good, bad, and indifferent.
Yeah, yep. We sold our cows here a couple years back, and I was rotating with polywire, and yeah, it works well. The calves, when they're small, they're going to sneak underneath it and be on the other side a little bit, but they can get back and forth, and as they get bigger, they learn to respect it and stay on the side of it. During calving, it can be really tough. Let's say if you're trying to do daily moves, generally what I would do is I wouldn't do that. I'd give them a week or two's worth of pasture just in one big chunk. That way, they can go off by themselves and calve and stuff like that. And that's actually a good way to, train them too. If you just have one poly wire for a couple weeks in a pasture and just that one cutting it in half, that's a lot easier to train them in on than it is, when you're going to 3 or 4 sides of polywire. But yeah, so it works well. The challenge with rotating cattle a lot with pairs, we found that was in the early spring when the calves are still young, and when our chunks of land are they're all within about 10 miles, so we can trail everything to pastures, but there's a lot of 2-3 mile moves in there. And it's really tough with those young pairs to keep them paired up. And we had a lot of days where we had some rodeos. So that's one challenge with pairs, rotating them a lot that you don't have with yearlings.
Have you ever had any trouble where let's pick on your custom grazing cattle, and I'm glad that you brought that up, Trevor, because that's part of the scenario that you've got at your place is that daily monitoring of these cattle. If something needs to get treated, needs to get looked at, and that's where I'm going with this. Let's talk about foot rot. And in a lot of areas, that can be a nightmare. I've ran into that myself, or oh my gosh, seems like you're treating half of the darn herd for this stuff. When you've got smaller enclosures like that you're rotating through, does it make it a little bit more challenging when you're going out, either if you're darting those cattle or if you're roping those cattle and mugging them down to treat them?
I think it in our scenario, it helps that in a few different ways. One, you're seeing the cattle every day, and when you move them to a new paddock, they take off running. So if you have ones with the sore feet, they hang towards the back, and you're seeing that group of cattle and those animals do that. So and then that's also a great time the next day to come out with a dart gun. You move them into a new paddock. Those ones that have sore feet are hanging back, and you can dart them pretty easy. And then also, I think this makes the biggest difference is when we're moving them so often, they're always on fresh pasture. And so they're not hanging out in the same creeks, around their own own manure and urine, where, they get micro cuts on their feet, and then they go stand in swampy water where they've been urinating, defecating in for a couple weeks. That's when you have infections. We had 1,100 yearlings last year, and I think we treated about 40 of them.
Oh, wow.
Throughout the summer for foot rot, which is still a little bit more than I would have wanted. But yeah, from the wrecks I've heard other people have, that was pretty good. And we didn't gain as much as we wanted to last year, get as good daily gains. But one thing the both of our customers are really happy with was the health of the cattle and how many next to no cattle came in. We only lost 3 yearlings out of that 1,100 all last year. And then the cattle that came in, there was maybe 1 or 2 that had a limp to them. They were real happy with how well we were able to keep an eye on them. So I think just seeing the cattle all the time and being out there with them, it helps monitoring that a little bit more.
I know when a lot of us think about incorporating a different management style like this of using hot wire, and then we think about, okay, where are we going to put the wire and how much does it cost? And it seems like so many times we forget about the big limiting factor, and that is water. And that's the darn most important thing we need to be thinking about.
Yeah, you need to, if you want big groups of, all your groups of cattle grouped up, you need to have reliable water. That's the biggest limiting factor in all this. You're right. Like I said, that's your biggest limiting factor. And the way that we're able to make all this work, generally per chunk of land, we have a winter water source where the line's buried 6 feet deep into a tank. And so off that, one water source per chunk of pasture, we run above ground lines to every one of those quarter-mile strips so that we're able to get reliable water. And to do that with the herd size, we need about 10 gallons a minute of water flow. And that would water a herd up to about 700 head of yearlings. And then with that, we use portable water tanks. They're water tanks we can move with the hydrobed. So, that means every couple of weeks we're moving that watering point, and so they're getting less flies, less foot rot and all that by moving that watering point every couple of weeks.
And there are, or maybe I should ask you about programs. There are some programs out there that allow for different cost sharing of some of these types of practices, correct?
There is, and I've got some cost share help from the NRCS, but they don't have anything for like temporary portable infrastructure, which is a little frustrating because, it'd be nice to, everywhere we have these above ground lines for them to be buried 6 feet deep.
Right.
But I mean, we have, I think, 4 or 5 miles now of above ground line running places. And that's a lot of money to get all that buried. And we don't need them for the winter mostly. Cattle can trail, up to a mile back to water in the winter and not really hurt anything. And then they can supplement with snow too. So we don't need all this permanent infrastructure. And then having it above ground, it's more portable if you see different ways to do things, or you need to grab a chunk of pipe because you want to put water in a little bit different spot. You're able to move it around a little bit. And so there's really not anything that I know of that's cost sharing the temporary stuff. The permanent stuff, I've got some cost share help with like a road bore, getting water underneath the road to the other side, and then putting in a winter tank in a couple different spots. I've got cost share for that, but that's for like permanent, winter based infrastructure. So yeah, there is that option if you need to get water to a place to winter graze cattle. That's a great option because you need the portable stuff. We have to stop using in about mid-October to early November. It just starts getting too cold at night, and then you'll start freezing and breaking. So then we kind of got to stick to those buried lines. But
Trevor, I know that you and your wife, Bailey, are very busy, but you are more than willing to visit with people and help people and share your story with individuals. How do we go about following you, get a hold of you, visit with you? How do we go about doing that?
Trevor Burrian on Facebook. I put most of my content up on TikTok, though. It's Hungry Man Butte Ranch on TikTok, and share a lot of videos about grazing and what we're doing with the cattle and how we make it all work with portable and temporary portable infrastructure and some mixed in with some permanent infrastructure. Because that was the main challenge when I started, was just even where do you even start? Like if you're totally throwing out the old system and starting with the new, it's a grind getting started and even knowing where to start. But we just kind of chipped away at it little by little and still have a lot of work to do as far as getting up more permanent high tensile fence and tearing out old barbed wire fences and stuff and getting water in a few more places. But yeah, if you want to follow us and follow our journey and any questions, I guess just message me on Facebook or TikTok, and I usually try to get back to people.
There you go, Hungry Man Butte Ranch on Facebook and on TikTok. And you can always reach out to Beck and I, and we'll make sure that we get you and Trevor together if you have some more questions. And every time that we talk about these different management practices, it is an idea. And of course, they need to be modified to see how they're going to work on your operation and tweaked a little bit to make sure that they work in your scenario. And we're always excited to hear your stories, and we love the questions. You can reach out to us at any time. ranchitupshow@gmail.com. You can text us 707-RANCH-20. That's 707-726-2420. Trevor, thank you again for talking just good, practical, what worked and what didn't work for you. I get so fascinated by these stories because the light bulbs go off and I start thinking of what we can apply on our place. Now, we've got to take a quick break, but we'll be back with more of the Ranch It Up Radio Show. We're going to be going through the news when we come back. Are you looking for the best way to raise healthy, productive beef? Look no further than Westway Feed Products. Westway's liquid supplements support increased forage utilization, efficiency, convenience, and sustainability. With Westway Feed's scientifically formulated liquid feed, your cattle will gain weight faster and stay healthier, ensuring you get the best return on your investment. Visit westwayfeed.com or call 800-800-7517 to learn more. Westway Feed Products, raising the bar in beef production one supplement at a time. The quick, fast, easy, all-in-one location to look at bull sales. Head to ranchchannel.com. Check it out on your phone. ranchchannel.com. All the information on one page at your fingertips. Videos, catalogs, everything. ranchchannel.com.
Livestockmarket.com. We hear from them each and every week, highlighting various sales and lots. But have you taken the time to cruise the site, look around, and see what cattle are bringing? How about lower that sale expense and give Livestock Market a try? It's about the easiest way to market your stock, and it puts your product on a worldwide view. Livestockmarket.com. It's simple, and it works.
At Allied Genetic Resources, it's all about commercial customer success.
We see that charge, we understand that charge, and we're going to use all the tools we can to get there.
To maximize heterosis, purchase your next herd sire from an Allied Genetic Resources partner. Just head to alliedgeneticresources.com. Here's what's going on in the news. The government in China blocked beef exports from the JBS USA facility in Greeley, Colorado. Reports have pointed to alleged traces of the feed additive ractopamine as the cause of the block. Now, meat from ractopamine-fed animals is considered safe in the United States, but it is a banned and restricted substance in China and 160 other countries. In a statement, JBS said it is working diligently with U.S. and Chinese authorities to resolve the situation as soon as possible. Now, an update on the avian influenza. The U.S. Center for Disease Control reported the third confirmed case of highly pathogenic avian influenza in a human in the country. The most recent case, that is also the second in Michigan. All three cases are related but involve dairy workers exposed to infected cows. The latest case is the first in the U.S. to present typical influenza-like symptoms. That is according to the CDC. Now, the USDA has responded by adding an additional $825 million in emergency funding from the Commodity Credit Corporation, or the CCC, to help combat the ongoing H5N1 highly pathogenic avian influenza outbreak. USDA Secretary Vilsack approved the transfer of $824 million from the CCC to the Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, or APHIS, to sustain rapid response activities. The money will support diagnostics, field response, pre-movement testing, surveillance, and vaccine development for various livestock, including cattle, turkeys, pigs, and goats. It follows a previous $1.3 billion emergency fund to address the highly pathogenic avian influenza detections. And finally, we've heard that term, beef on dairy. Well, with the U.S. beef cattle numbers at their lowest since 1961, a lot of dairy farmers are breeding more calves for meat to offset their costs. They're inseminating their dairy cows with beef both semen, and farmers produce hybrid calves that are meatier and fetch higher prices, providing a valuable income stream amid fluctuating milk prices. Well, it's that time for us to take another break, and when we come back, we're talking markets, numbers, and a lot more on the Ranch It Up radio show, so keep it parked right here. Why not give Gelbvieh and Balancer bulls a try this year? Raise replacement females with added fertility, increased longevity, and greater productivity. Get increased performance, improve feed efficiency, and increase the carcass merit. Maximize crossbreeding with Gelbvieh and Balancer.
Cattle market reports to various news stories. The Tri-State Livestock News covers it all. Check us out at tsln.com. Subscriptions or advertising, call Tracy Hawk at 406-951-3211. The Tri-State Livestock News, what ranchers read.
Before you head to the next rodeo, a concert, maybe a gathering on or off the ranch, we head to Medora Boot and Western Wear.
Tigger and Beck here for Medora Boot and Western Wear. Latest Western fashion in boots, jackets, and hats.
From durable ranch wear to keeping the horses in sturdy tack, visit medoraboot.com to order.
Or better yet, plan to visit Medora, North Dakota and shop Medora Boot and Western Wear.
Again, go to medoraboot.com. You can follow on Facebook and tell them Tigger and Beck sent you. Pharmaten, healthier calves and more dollars in your pocket. How?
Coccidia control, and then excellent to help with that transition to solid feed and seeing their weights really hold up as they put cattle through their weaning ration.
ImageneIngredients.com. Want to add just a little bit of spice to your event, your customer appreciation supper, your banquet, your meeting? Oh, yeah. Well, bring in us, Beck and I, as your keynote speakers, hosts, MCs, a host couple. We'll make them laugh, even cry tears of joy. Call us today. Welcome back, everyone, to the Ranch It Up radio show. It is that time in the program. Y'all know what happens. We check in with Kirk Donsbach, StoneX Financial Incorporated, to find out kind of a little recap of what happened last week in our marketplace. So, Kirk, good, bad, and ugly, give us the numbers. What do you got for us?
Good morning, Tigger, and all your listeners out there. As of Friday, May 31st, August feeders closed the week at 256.37.5. That's down 405 on the week. The CME feeder index was $1.90 lower at 248.24. That left the basis versus August futures at a negative $8.16. June live cattle closed the week at 181.60. That's down 230 on the week, with cash trading 186 to 187 in the south and 190 in the north. The lower trades occurred early on Thursday, and then by Friday, the packers had to increase their bids to fill their needs, so the week actually closed pretty positive on a cash note. That left the 5-area weighted average down 270 at 187.42, and the basis versus June futures, a positive $5.87. So our basis is still a little long there. Weekly slaughter on a holiday-shortened week was down 67,000 head versus the prior week and 28,000 head lower than the same week last year. Choice boxes closed the week at 313.20. That's 275 higher on the week. To wrap this up, December corn closed the week at 466 3/4. That's down 21 3/4 cents on the week. The chart has a very bearish tilt to it with this week's failure.
So before I turn you loose, Kirk, I got to ask you this question, and this was last week, and a lot of people looking at what the markets did. And it was kind of spectacular wrapping up May with some of these sales that the last week or two of May that people were paying for not just grass calves, but for everything. I mean, my goodness. So there was speculation and scuttlebutt going around social media that we've hit our highs, that this is as high as it's going to go. Your thoughts on that? I know that's kind of a tricky question, but going into the future, thinking about marketing these calves come fall, what are your thoughts with that?
Well, I guess I'd start with anything's possible, right? You know, that very well could have been our high, the highs we set last week. I guess I'm more inclined to call the weakness we saw correction. We did have quite a rally with really no weakness at all, over $15 rally without any kind of sell-off. So I would argue that the market was overdue a correction. Then, of course, we got the Colorado JBS plant having some meat rejected out of China. That kind of started it off. And then after that, the market basically correlated, the feeder market and fat market basically correlated to what the equities were doing. So, for example, the NASDAQ. So is it possible that we saw our highs? It's very much possible, although I think where I sit, I would call that less than a 50-50 chance. I think it's more corrective. We still got a lot of bullish seasonal pattern left in front of us. I still think we're going to try that 270 level in August feeders.
So really, I think the moral of the story is regardless of where you think the markets may or may not go, did we hit our highs, didn't we? Is there still something to be had? It is the time to go through the numbers, figure out what that break even is. Are we making money where it's at? Where can we maybe cut expenses? But all of those questions need to be really asked of ourselves, thinking about, marketing some of these fall calves. Are we going to keep them on feed? What are we going to do? So even though things look really good right now, really a person needs to, if you don't have those numbers figured out, you need to start doing that.
Absolutely. And the hardest part this year, we have the board and a little hesitation in the futures market for the funds to be aggressive buyers and specs to be aggressive buyers. And then on the other hand, we've had cash doing what cash has been doing. And obviously that's been very, very strong. And I bring that up because just around the corner is the first big video sale of the year that's going to give our first indication of what this fall delivery cash is going to look like. That. So I guess I would say that in about 10 days, we're going to have a very key piece of information that we haven't had yet up to this year on what cash price looks for this fall to help you make that decision you were talking about.
Hey all, Mark Van Zee with livestockmarket.com. Coming up this Wednesday, June 12th, we have our small livestock online auction. Bidding opens at just $10 a head, no reserves, all lots will sell. Over 250 head of sheep, goats, and pigs. Featured lots include 120 Dorper Katahdin Royal White ewes, selling on 2 lots of 40 and 2 lots of 20. Bred to exposed with a couple that have lambs on the side. The bucks are out with them now. They could lamb any time between now and October. They're 2 to 6 years old. They'll be dewormed and vaccinated before leaving good bag blast lambing from Louth Farms in Red Key, Indiana. 40 purebred St. Croix ewes, 90 pounds, 1 to 3 years old, pasture raised, all proven good mothers from Lee Ranch in Monroe, North Carolina. 2 full-blood Icelandic rams. They're proven sires, 4 to 5 years old, 200 pounds, nice, calm, easy to handle, from the Huston Ranch in western Wyoming. 6 Nigerian dwarf and Spanish goats, each selling on separate lots, bucks and does from Wendell Farms in Kingsville, Texas. 3 Nigerian dwarf goats, 2 wethers, 1 doe, selling on separate lots, all registered from Gene Farm. 45 purebred Iberian butcher-ready hogs, selling on 3 15-head lots. They're 280 pounds, pasture-raised, Cargill non-GMO feed from Phil Fart Farms in Austin, Texas, and 10 purebred Iberian gilts, selling on 2 5-head lots. It's a great opportunity to own very rare 100% purebred Ibercos for breeding. They're free from antibiotics and non-GMO food from Phil Park Farms in Austin, Texas. We also got 3 purebred Mangalista feeder pigs, all males, 3 months old from Rubo Farms, and 1 purebred Yorkshire boar, 850 pounds. He's 5 years old. He was fertile, but he's ready for the butcher now from Buchanan Farms in Joplin, Missouri. Bidding is currently live, but all lots will sell the morning of Wednesday, June 12th at 10 a.m. Central Time. Got sheep, goats, or pigs to sell? Regular small livestock online auctions, second Wednesday of every month on livestockmarket.com and auctiontime.com.
This one's for all the ranchers who sell directly to consumers. Hey, I'm Shay, and I'm the host of the Casual Cattle Conversations podcast. Did you know there's a contest in Wyoming each year to determine who sells the best steaks to consumers? Tyler McCann shared what the contest entails and how you can join in this podcast episode. Here's a taste of what was shared.
If you look at other industries like cheese or wine or beer or whiskey, they all have some type of culminating tasting event. And so with that, why do we not have something like that for beef? You know, it's a multi-billion-dollar a year industry, and there's no way for these producers to advertise how they've done and what their flavor is. And so we started talking about it, and of course my wife was the first one to hear the idea. I said, I think we need to get a bunch of these ranches together and give out a buckle and some awards for like what's the best beef in Wyoming.
Listen to the full story by searching for Casual Cattle Conversations on your favorite podcast player. Happy ranching, folks.
And now that's going to wrap it up for today. A big thanks from our crew to yours, starting off with Trevor Burian for answering more listener questions. Appreciate it, and providing your contact information as well. And again, if you want to get a hold of Trevor, just reach out to us. We'll make sure that everybody gets together. Shay Keister-Warner with Casual Cattle Conversations. Kirk Donsbach, StoneX Financial Incorporated. Mark Van Zee with livestockmarket.com. And the boss lady, Rebecca Warner, a.k.a. Beck, who isn't with us today. A big thank you to our partners, ranchchannel.com, Transova Genetics, Axiota, Multi-Man, and Lactapro, Stockman's Livestock Exchange, the American Gelbvieh Association, Imogene Ingredients and Pharmatan, Westway Feed Products, Medora Boot and Western Wear, Allied Genetic Resources and Allied Feeding Partners, LivestockMarket.com, EquineMarket.com, AuctionTime.com, RFD TV, Wrangler, and this fine radio station. And crew, so glad y'all came with us one more time as we ranch it up. Be sure to like and follow us on Facebook at Ranch It Up Show. Our email is ranchitupshow@gmail.com. You can call and you can text 24/7 at 707-RANCH-20. That's 707-726-2420. Spread the good word and join us again next week where it's always Tigger and Beck approved. Stay ranchy and ranch it up.